So, let's forget about daily horoscopes for just a minute. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the actual engine behind it all, the precise geometric system that underpins professional astrology. Let's get into it.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the single most important idea here. When you strip it all away, professional astrology is a system of exact measurement. And trust me, if you misunderstand this geometric foundation, every single calculation that follows is it's going to be wrong.
And that's the big question, right? What is this system? Well, today, we're going to reveal the foundational blueprint they use for literally everything, from birth charts to advanced financial forecasting. It's a coordinate system that maps the entire cosmos.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to build this thing from the ground up. We'll start with the basic circle, find its crucial starting point, learn the two languages used to describe location, identify its power zones, and finally, we'll see why it all matters.
All right, let's dive right into our first section. We've got to establish the fundamental shape of the whole system. You can think of this as the giant, blank canvas on which everything else is painted.
Everything, and I mean everything, in astrology starts with a simple circle. And a circle, of course, has 360 degrees. This circle actually represents the ecliptic, which is just the fancy word for the path that planets seem to take across our sky, from our point of view right here on Earth.
And building the system from here is actually super easy. It's just 3 logical steps. Step 1, you take that big 360-degree circle. Step 2, you slice it up into 12 perfectly equal pieces. Kind of like a pizza, right? And step 3, each of those 30-degree slices, boom, that becomes one of the 12 zodiac signs. It's really that clean.
Okay, so we've got our blueprint, but where do we start measuring from? You know, every good map needs that big "you are here" arrow, and it turns out the Zodiac has one too. We need to find its prime meridian. And that starting point, it has a name. It's officially called the Aries Point. It sits at exactly 0 degrees of the sign Aries. And I can't stress this enough, it is the most important reference point in the entire system.
You know, a perfect way to think about this is to just picture a world map. The Aries Point is for astrology what the prime meridian, that line running through Greenwich, England, is for geography. It's the universal 0 line, the starting point for everything.
And this is why it's so incredibly important. Literally every single measurement starts here. Think about it. The beginning of all the other signs, the exact location of Mars or Jupiter, all those complicated angles they use for forecasting, everything is calculated from this one single spot, 0 degrees Aries.
So let's keep building on this idea. Because once you have a planet placed on this cosmic map, astrologers actually have 2 different ways of talking about where it is, kind of like 2 different languages for the very same location.
So on one side, you've got the absolute angle. This is pure math. It's the planet's total distance, in degrees, from that Aries Point starting line. But then you have the relative sign position. This is the one you probably hear more often. It's more intuitive, and it's what's used for interpretation. And look, both are totally correct. They just do different jobs.
For example, an astrologer will almost always say a planet is at, say, 15 degrees Taurus. That's its relative position. It just means it's 15 degrees into that 30-degree slice of the pie we call Taurus. Makes sense, right? It's simple and descriptive.
But here's the cool part. Its absolute position, the math running underneath, is actually 45 degrees. Now, why is that? Well, to get to Taurus, the planet had to travel through all 30 degrees of Aries first, then it went another 15 degrees into Taurus. So you just add them up, 30 plus 15. That gets you 45.
Okay, so now that we have the whole map laid out, we can start to see some really interesting hot spots. 4 special power angles. You can think of them like the compass points of the Zodiac: north, south, east, and west. And these are the major energetic turning points. And here they are, the 4 cardinal points, sitting at 0, 90, 180, and 270 degrees on our circle. And what's amazing is that these points line up perfectly with the beginning of each of our seasons, the equinoxes and the solstices. So in astrology, these aren't just numbers. They're considered high-energy zones, places of action, tension, and major change. So let's bring this all home. Why does any of this geometry actually matter? Well, this is the point where the abstract blueprint becomes a tool you can actually use for real-world application.
The biggest takeaway here is that this isn't just random guesswork or vague symbols. No way. It is a fixed, logical, 360-degree coordinate system. It lets you track and measure the motion of any planet precisely as it moves counterclockwise from that one universal starting line.
And really, here's the bottom line. For anyone serious about studying astrology, getting this system down isn't just a nice to have. It is absolutely non-negotiable. It's the key that unlocks the door to any kind of advanced analysis or precise forecasting, because what you're really learning is the language of celestial math itself.
You know, they say understanding the map is the first step to any great journey. So now that you have the coordinates for the cosmos, it just leaves us with one final thought. What new patterns, cycles, or insights will you discover?